Welcome back to another episode of the End of an Era podcast. I'm your host, Elise Fox, and I'm so excited to be here today. First off, please excuse my voice because I am on the tail end of a cold, and I didn't want this cold to stop the show. I'll be back next episode with my typical sultry and voluptuous voice that you have all grown to love. Another thing, if you didn't know, I don't know how you cannot know, but if you didn't know, you can watch this episode on YouTube. Link is in the description below. Please share any feedback, comment, like, subscribe, and share with as many people as possible. Thank you. Let's jump right in. We're going to jump in with our weekly check-in. What are we ending and what are we beginning this week? So for me, I'll go into more detail, but just to lay the land, I am going through things on my own, going through my own emotions on my own, I guess I could say. I'm that friend that always wants to show up for a friend. I show up for big events, small events. You need to cry, you need to vent. I'm like the mental health friend, which for obvious reasons, but I don't always go to my friends for the same thing. I like to go through things on my own. I don't like to, but I go through things on my own, and I like to check in with them once I've reached a solution or that thing has ended, or I'm like, let me tell you about so-and-so. What's been going on the past 6 months when I could have had that friend's support over the past 6 months. So I tend to isolate, and I've been going through a lot of big life changes, a lot of big events that requires support, which requires a hug from a friend. And I haven't really been taking up that space. So I'm ending going through things in isolation. So I would implore, if you're like me, to do the same thing, because friends aren't always only supposed to be there when stuff is happy and it's fun and it's just, glamorous or whatever. They're supposed to be there for those in-between spots. Like, it's a whole friendship. So I'm learning to lean on friends more, and it feels good already. Something I'm starting, and this podcast is a part of it, but I'm really like going hard with my creative endeavors. Like I'm going so hard, but I'm actually going very hard because I realize, like, doing a self audit, I am my happiest when I'm creating, not for money, not for status, not for clout. Like I really love when I have my camera in my hand, I'm filming. I love the editing process of projects. I love animation. So I'm leaning back into all of my creative pursuits. And I think I shared this back in episode 1, but I fully just like, I was messaging all of my friends, like, can I get your creative cloud? Because I got locked out of mine. But I really just want to dive back in and explore creativity from the vantage point of joy, not for any other reason. So I had a battery on my back the past week or so, even with this sickness, of just wanting to create and put things out into the world and not hold on to every single project because it has to be perfect. It has to be all of these things. So I am really enjoying myself, and I feel like a whole person, and I wake up excited. I go to sleep with my laptop on my chest because I'm editing and looking up inspiration. It's a really good feeling and a good place to be, considering all of the other news and things that I'm intaking. It's a good way for me to balance what I'm receiving. Today's episode is a Q&A mix. Honestly, I didn't know if I was going to be able to record this week because I've just been coughing and I've been hacking and I've been just not very cute. So I wanted to create just a simple episode for you all. And also, I want you all to get to know me better, and I want to get to know what you want to know about too. So let's jump right in. Question number 1. What's something you had to give up creatively that at one time brought you joy? I would say it was film and production. And any film girl knows, like, once you're in it, like, you are in it. When you're in a project, that is all you think about. It is all consuming. So when I started my business, when I started Sad Girls Club, even before Sad Girls Club, I have a company called Produced by Girls. It's my production company. But when I had Produced by Girls, that was like all I did was creative projects, and it was the absolute best. I was living in Los Angeles. I was filming some incredible, talented women, painters, singers, dancers. And it was just, I don't know, I loved it so much. I didn't expect anything from that project, but I ended up working with a lot of cool brands through that process. And I met some really amazing friends. And some of my projects were even streaming on Apple TV when Apple TV was just this new platform. So that was very cool. And then I started Sad Girls Club, and Sad Girls Club became all consuming. For obvious reasons, it's definitely needed. And if you don't know, Sad Girls Club is my nonprofit that I started in 2017 after I released a documentary about my experience with depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The response from that film prompted me to start Sad Girls Club because there was a conversation that happened, or there was a conversation that I felt like needed to continue. And as a filmmaker, you want your films to create a conversation. I feel like now a lot of content put online is very clickbaity or it's meant to start an argument, but I was very blessed to be able to start a conversation about something positive through my own experiences. And I just said, like, I could either let this, this moment just happen and pass, or I can build something that is bigger than what this film stood for in the beginning. So I started Sad Girls Club because girls really needed to have a space for their wellness. Girls really needed resources, they needed community, and I leaned all the way into it. And with doing that, as a Capricorn, I put all my eggs, or a lot of my eggs, my time, my energy into that basket, which isn't a bad thing, but it definitely took away from my creative pursuits, because if it came to helping a girl, receive therapy for a year and me working on a film project, I would choose that every time. But I noticed the past couple of years, I just been back in my depression really heavily, and not really envious. I guess you could say envious. I could be honest. I've been very envious of people who just create for a living, because I'm in this space now where it's wellness. It's very, I don't want to say stale, but it's a very important space to be in. And the work that I do is important, but it isn't creative. It's not very creative. Like, yes, on Instagram I can do certain things, but I'm not like animating galaxies and like doing streetwear campaigns and that kind of stuff. So I really miss doing those types of projects, and I put that on the back burner for 8 years, which is wild. And now I'm getting back into it. So creatively, I felt like I definitely lost myself in my business. And over the past year, I've been slowly but surely getting back into what brings me joy and what makes me happy. And that is film production, editing, directing, and all that good stuff. I'm actually executive producing a film series called The Wild Wild Web. It's incredible. It's a very funny, satirical comedy about three friends who start a crisis PR agency to help canceled influencers, and it's very timely. And I don't know, I'm excited to just dip my toe back into this space and bring my own self joy. Question number 2. This is kind of heavy. How do you grieve what you're leaving behind when you're in transition? I feel like my grieving process obviously is dependent on the situation, but when I'm transitioning out into something, I'm always grieving the comfort of the previous situation. If I'm leaving a job, and this is like, I tell this story pretty often to friends, but I've only had one corporate job. I was recruited for that job, and the position was created for me. I was comfortable. I was in a space where I was just able to think of ideas, create them, and get paid for it. And at the same time, I started Sad Girls Club, and Sad Girls Club was a bit of a risk because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I've never worked in a nonprofit space. I've never worked in mental health. So it was definitely a risk. And the company I was working for actually came up to me because they're like, girl, you're taking sick days to go speak at Yale. You're taking vacation days to go speak at Harvard. Like, I think the business that you created can sustain itself because you have legs, like you have community, you can get funding for this if you needed it. And we feel like we might be doing you a disservice if you think that we're going to be mad if you stay here. They didn't fire me or anything, but they just like gave me this really calm, like ultimatum of like, if you want to leave, you can go, you can always come back if you want to. And we support you. So to have the founders of the company like put that battery in my back, it brought me a lot of fear because I was like, damn, like people do see this as a real opportunity. I see it as a real opportunity too, but I had the comfort of that job. I had benefits. I was working in like Soho, and I don't know. I just had access. I had a lot of access, and to leave that was very daunting. So I think when I grieve losing the comfort of something and the routine of something. And for me, that is, I don't know how I do it. I'm like, I don't know how I do it, but I get it done. No, I don't know how I do it, but I think I just have to talk myself up. Like, I talk myself up. I'm in this position to do this. I know that I'm the most qualified person to do this. And with those positive affirmations, I'm able to put myself in a space mentally to grieve what is leaving because I know something better is coming. I know something better is on the way. And incidentally, that company doesn't exist anymore. Sad Girls Club has lasted longer than that company, which is a shock to me because I thought that company was fabulous. And I took a bet on myself, and it was for good reason because in a few years I wouldn't have had a job anyway. So sometimes you have to bet on yourself, and then you look back and see that opportunity was great for me at that time, but this is where I need to be right now. Question 3 is how do you describe the work ethics of starting your podcast? The work ethics of starting the podcast, I knew it was going to be a lot of work. trust me. I knew podcasting is something, and it's always the jobs that look the easiest that you say, I could do that. Anybody can do that are typically the most difficult. So for me, I knew starting a podcast was going to be a lot of work because typically the jobs that feel like or that look like they'll be easy are the hardest to do. Many people have said I could pick up a microphone and start a podcast, but realistically, you're talking to yourself for 30 minutes to an hour. You're just talking to yourself. You're trying not to swallow into the mic. You're trying not to say too many. Like there's all these things that you're thinking about as you're delivering information, as you're also trying to look presentable if this is a video podcast. There's a lot of things that are just that have to be in order. So I say that to say I started planning this podcast a year ago, and I have a business coach who has helped me through this process. I think of a list like whenever I do anything, and this can be for any job, not just for podcasting, but if you want to do something, if you want to do anything, especially when it's work related or a project that you're self starting or you're self funding, you create a list of tasks that need to get done. And with that list, you have to create a timeline as to when those things can get done. It's not just as easy as going to Best Buy, picking up the equipment, sitting down and recording. Yes, you can do that, but also what's your cadence going to be? What days are you recording? What days are you editing? What if you have to reshoot? Like all of those things have to go into the actual production of it. But even before that, you have to think about, why am I doing this? Honestly, why am I doing this? Who wants to hear my voice? What need am I filling? What void am I filling? And who is my target audience? Like I had to write down who my target audience, like where my target audience shops, what music they listen to, how do they parent their kids, like all of those things. You should know who your people are before you even purchase anything. You have to really identify what need you're filling and understand that there are other people in this space that may be filling that void, but what makes you different? You being yourself makes you different, but like, what are you delivering? What information are you delivering? How are you delivering it? That makes it a bit different. With that, my work ethic was to plan out as far as possible so I didn't have to feel rushed into a deadline. And I remember giving myself 1 year and I was like, you know what? I think I need 1 year and 1 month. And it was totally fine because I had planned so much and I felt confident and secure in releasing the first episode because of all the thought that went into it. And then work ethic wise, like did not feel like getting up today. I didn't feel like putting on makeup. It's a Sunday and I don't have many days where I'm not with my son. So the days that I typically am not with him, I try to just sleep or get like little bits of work done or prepare for the week. But this podcast is like, I'm like, no, if I want to do this, if I want to build my community, I want to speak to you all, I want to get to know you, I have to challenge myself to step out of my comfort zone and film this podcast while I'm feeling very sick, you know? So work ethic wise, you're going to have to push yourself. Do things afraid. It's never going to feel right the first time. I remember speaking to I think I can mention her name, but Sam Fahar. She just started a podcast about 6 months ago. And I was like, girl, I just filmed my pilot and I did like 4 or 5 takes. And she's like, I did so many more takes for my first pilot. And I spoke with someone else and they said it took me about 12 takes to do my first pilot. So there's no right or wrong way to start it, but just do it afraid. Just do it. The best way to get into a rhythm of doing something is just start doing it and continue doing it. So work ethic wise, you're gonna have to challenge yourself and have people hold you accountable if you feel like you can't motivate yourself, or if you feel like you just need someone else to identify when progress needs to be made. This is a sweet one. What keeps me confident to take on the day? My confidence comes from my experience in life. Like I've gone through so much, as many of you have, but I've gone through, and it's so interesting. I was just talking to my brother about this yesterday. There was a study that, or I don't know if it's a study, but there's a saying or a phrase that we all have to restart our lives at least twice. And for me, I feel like I've gone through a complete life overhaul at least 3 times in my life so far. The first one being a really, really terrible incident that happened to me in college where I had to basically uproot myself and move and wasn't able to complete my semester. The second was having like my suicide attempt, honestly, in Los Angeles, and having to uproot my life in LA and be placed back in New York City, having almost nothing, like no job, no savings, or barely any savings, no money, and I had a small dog. And then the third was having my son. Like after I had my son, it really felt like I was in the Men in Black episode where they kind of flash that thing in front of your eyes and you just forget things. Like I feel like I had to rebuild myself as a human, as a woman, as everything once I had my kid. And I had to really understand who I wanted to be in this world with those learnings. So I would say what makes me confident is knowing that I've gone through so many life changes and I've made it through. It was never easy. It was never fun. Like some parts of it was fun, but it was a struggle many a times. I don't come from money. I'm not a trust fund nepo baby. So everything I have, I've had to work for, and I feel really great and grounded that the work that I've done has led me to this place that I am today, and I can continue to, encourage people and help people. Like I love that I'm able to help people, and I feel like that gives me the most confidence. Also, sometimes when I'm at rock bottom or when I think I'm at rock bottom, I'm like, am I really going through it? Or do I just need to get my hair done? Sometimes it really is just that. Like, am I really down bad? Or do I need to like take a nice long shower? Do I need to wash my hair? Like, do I need to do my nails? Sometimes it's just as simple as that of like, I don't think anything's really wrong with me. I just think I haven't been taking care of myself. So let me go out and take care of myself. Let me go out and do something for myself so I can be back at it. So think about that too. So I feel like a lot of times I'm like, I don't know if I'm down bad. I just need to go and look at some tutorials and figure out how to do my hair on my own. Okay, this one is really good. It's how do I balance motherhood and Sad Girls Club? And to be quite honest, the past couple years have been the hardest years of balancing motherhood and Sad Girls Club. When I started Sad Girls Club, it was 2017. Sad Girls Club pretty much blew up in 2018. I had my son May of 2019. And in the beginning, it was pretty easy to balance. Like I loved to work. I still love to work. I had my son at 10 months to the day, and I was working until nine months and 3 weeks. I think I had a photo shoot literally 7 days before I gave birth, and it was with Nike. And I was asking them, it was with the soccer team. I can't remember what the actual campaign was, but the actual job was to have a photo shoot in New York, and then they flew a bunch of creatives and the models from the shoot to France for a week. And I was very much trying to get my son dual citizenship. So I was begging them, like, can I please go to France? Can I please go to France? And they're like, girl, you are past 9 months pregnant. You are not going anywhere. This is not going to be Nike's baby. So I said it to say, like, I loved to work and I was just always down for a gig. And then when my son came, he was the easiest baby in every aspect of it. Like, he didn't cry for a wet diaper. He didn't whine. He wasn't someone who I barely heard his cry. Like, he was a very chill, calm guy, and he was just a booby baby. He just wanted to drink milk and turn up. But he was absolutely fine. So the first couple of years was actually fine for me balancing work and motherhood. It was more of like the parenting woes, like the co-parenting woes that very much affected my progress and my process, especially because I am Basil's main source of support. Like, very transparently, I pay for 100% of his needs. I am the one who does all of his homework. I am the one who takes him to sports. I am the one that's cheering him on. I buy all of his clothing. I am his sole provider in many ways than one. And I think at this point, now that he's at the age where he's just excited to do so many things and I want to give him those opportunities, it's harder now because I obviously have a full-time job, I have staff, and I have requirements, and I have things that I've set in place, but I also am not going to diminish his childhood or take away from his childhood because of work. So finding that balance, honestly, is tricky for me. He's a very active boy. He's in sports. He does jujitsu, and he's very active on like his like scooters, and he's a boy. He loves being outside and looking for bugs, and he wants me to go outside and looking for bugs with him. So sometimes I just have to stop. I have to really stop and assess where I want to spend my time. And one thing that has been really helpful for me is creating a block schedule of what do I do on certain days. So for example, 5-day work week, of course. Mondays, I take calls on Mondays. Tuesdays, I don't take any calls. I just do deep work. I do all the tasks that come from the calls. Usually you have a call and it's like, okay, what are we doing? What are the follow-up items? So I'll do all of those items on Tuesdays. Wednesdays are my days to kind of clean, meal prep. I'll also do more of the deep work that hasn't been done, and I'll do follow-ups on emails or follow-ups with anyone that I need to be in communication with. And then on Thursday, I do another day of calls. And Friday, if it's like an emergency call, if there's like a partnership, like just for myself, like a personal partnership, I'll take those calls. So I have my schedule pretty segmented. where I know I only speak on the phone or I'm only on Zoom meetings at these times. So I don't have to worry about any calls happening like, oh my gosh, it's 5 p.m. I have to hop on a phone call and I have to make dinner. No, I have my schedule pretty much set where my time with my son is there and I don't waver unless it's necessary or unless it's an emergency. And then he has his time where he knows I'm not on my computer. He knows I'm not on my phone. He knows that he has my full attention. So that was hard to do because even now there's always a new school vacation for these kids. I feel like we were in school every single day. We didn't celebrate hardly any holidays when I was in school, but he has at least one holiday or like a couple extra days off per month. So those days can be a bit trickier, but I think he's grown and known to understand like mommy has to work if you want to have these really amazing trips to Jamaica, if you want to go to Japan next year, if you want to do these great things, mommy's going to have to work because who else is going to do it, you know? So the balance is still difficult. Like I have to lean on people. My brother has been in town for about a week and he's been like holding it down, helping me out. My mom comes to town often. So it's also leaning on the village that I have to make sure that I can do everything I need to do to support this little nugget. And it's not always easy. It's rarely ever easy, but it's always rewarding. The next question is, that's not the question. What is the first thing I do to recover from a bad day? I feel like I'm pretty good at sitting with a bad day. Really do feel like I try to take lessons out of everything. I don't know if it's the Buddhism in me where I'm like, well, that was meant to happen. Like you lost $500. I guess that was meant to happen. Like I always look at what good is in it, even if there's no good. Like even me being sick and I'm like, I need to persevere and do this episode. Maybe this might be the most watched or most listened to episode. So I don't know. I just really feel like when I have a bad day, there's a reason why certain things happen. I feel like there's always a reason why things happen, even if it feels like in the moment it's the worst thing for you. So after I have a bad day, I usually, like I said before, I self-isolate, which isn't the best thing. And I just think about why the day went the way it did. And I try to do something nice for myself, whether that's like I'll watch my show a little bit longer. Like I love Larry David Down, like love him down. And my comfort show is Curb Your Enthusiasm or Seinfeld. So I would like, just have some ice cream, Ben and Jerry's, what's up? I'll have some ice cream, I'll watch my shows, and I'll just like sit with myself. Like sitting with myself is the best remedy for a bad day for me. I don't think I'm going to be able to get through all questions, but I have a couple more. So the next one is, how do I figure out my style? I feel like my style is coming together, but so I don't know if this question is about personal style as in like clothing or podcast style. So I'll answer it for both. Personal style, honestly, like the girls are saying, personal style comes from hobbies, what you want to do, how you use and enjoy clothing. So if you're someone who likes to be very active and very outside, you might not want to always wear a couture look or be the girl who's wearing heels everywhere. Like a nice pair of shoes might be the best thing for you, or a nice pair of sneakers. And buy quality pieces, and I can only say this so much, like buy quality pieces, buy pieces that are made from great real fabrics, cottons, linens, silks. Like those are going to be your best friends. I'm very anti fast fashion. I'm very anti Shein. I'm anti all of those things. I've turned down deals from these companies because I just don't like what it does to our body. When I wear something that from like a Shein or Forever 21, my body starts sweating. Like my body starts reacting in ways that it shouldn't just from putting on clothing. So try to invest in pieces that you like, but also are very good quality because they won't just look good. They'll make you feel good in them as well. And for me, I'm an outfit repeater. I've been actually thinking about my style and how I want to like revamp it or just curate it a bit. And I'm like leaning more into the simplicity, like the more of the uniform because I have so many things happening. I have the film that I'm executive producing. I have the podcast. I have Sad Girls Club. I have other speaking engagements. Like I just want to simplify things in my life. And what better way to do that than simplifying my wardrobe and certain choices that I have to make every single day. So for me, I love a nice white tee. I love a nice white tee from Uniqlo or a nice cotton tee from Cotton. And I love a good accessory. So I started accessorizing a lot more because I wear more simplistic outfits. So I have really nice purses, beautiful, cute, quirky sunglasses. I love jewelry. I'm very much an old school Brooklyn jewelry girl. Like you'll probably catch me with at least 3 rings on. I'm so sorry. Like I cannot stop. It's a part of me. But I think your personal style just comes from where, like, how you feel and how you feel in the clothes that you're wearing. If you try to wear something that you just see on TikTok, I've done that before. I'm guilty of that. I've seen something. I bought an outfit from people or like suggested by people on TikTok, and I'm like, we don't even have the same body type. Like, why am I going this hard to get this piece that looks amazing on this person? Like, they've done it justice just so I can just have it. That's no way to live. That's no way to live, sister. So just look at what you have in your closet, see how you can revamp it to how you want to use it. If you want to go from the clothes that you have in your closet, but you have a corporate job now, figure out ways, just have fun, play around with different things, play around with textures, play around with different cuts, play around with color, play around with accessories, and just have fun. And whatever feels nice, whatever feels like home to you, continue wearing it. It's your body, it's your choice. And then if you're talking about podcasts, this goes back to when you're starting any business, you're asking, what are you doing to help the space? What are you doing to help the industry? So if this is about podcasting and you're trying to figure out your style, just being you is your style. Period. No one else can be you. No one else speaks like you. And it's so interesting because now that I'm editing my podcast, I can hear this certain inflection in my voice that no one else has. And I'm like, I didn't know I spoke like this. I didn't know I paused so much. I didn't know I breathed like this. Like, you'll start noticing things that are just unique to you, because I'm sure if you're a podcaster, you're a fan or you consume podcasts as well. So you just being you is your style. That's it. That is literally it. Be organized, have notes, figure out what your background will be. For me, I chose this background because I want y'all to feel comfortable with me. I want y'all to feel comfortable speaking to me. I want it to feel like you're in your big sister's room and we're just like shooting this stuff and we're getting to know each other. But if I was doing a more buttoned up corporate podcast, I probably would go to WTF Studios and film a podcast there that is a bit more clean and way more produced. I want this podcast to feel very homey, very home video-esque. So that's why I film it in this bedroom setting, because I want you to feel like you're in your big sister's room, just like having a conversation. And I also include footage of like from vlogs. So if you're watching this, you can see, oh wait, this is like a full experience of the stories that you're telling matching what my life experiences actually are, which I think is really divine. So you just being you is the style, is your style, and that will carry you so much further than trying to be something that feels uncomfortable or that you're pretending to be. Okay, so I've just been hacking and coughing, and I think I need to sit down and drink some tea. I'm going to do another Q&A episode because this was really fun, and I loved the questions that you guys asked, and I also couldn't get to all of them, so we'll do this again soon. I'm going to end, though, on my mic drop moment of the week, and it is okay to unfriend that person for their political views. It is okay to unfriend that person because of who they voted for. That's it. Do it. Thank you so much for listening to the End of an Era podcast. I'm your host, Elise Fox. I love you guys so much. Please comment, leave a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. You can catch me on Instagram, on TikTok, on Threads, Elise.Fox. I would love to hear from you, and any feedback you have, please just share it my way. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This is The End of an Era.